I'm not ever going through that experience again.
Especially since my memory's so awful.
Hello, everyone. My name's Stonseys Boy, and welcome to the newest book in our reading series. Now, if you might be curious of what the heck I was talking about, I had a mental conniption where I was recording for another book, Tales from the Pizzaplex #3, Somnophobia, and suddenly the story sounded really, really familiar. And as such, because it sounded so familiar, I ended up skipping over it. I just stopped the recording, put the book away, and yeah. So instead, we're reading The Cliffs until I can figure out what the heck is wrong with that, if there's maybe some hidden videos. I don't care about that right now because I'm on limited time as always. So instead, we're reading Fazbear Frights #7, The Cliffs. So, without further ado, and to keep all you wonderful people waiting, let's begin. The Cliffs. Fazbear's Frights #7, Five Nights at Freddy's. Tyler knocked on the sippy cup off the kitchen table again. Careful, buddy, Robert said, picking it up and setting it in front of his son. Robert tried to feel relieved the already well-worn copy of How to Handle Your Toddlerly Years, which he jokingly called the owner's manual, assured him that it was perfectly normal for toddlers to knock over cups, throw food, and demonstrate how often overwhelming amount of emotional instability and was because of the normal didn't mean it was easy. Play phone? Tyler said, eyeing Robert's phone on the table. Robert eyed a set of bowl of cereal and bananas in front of Tyler. It's not time for you to play with Daddy's phone. It's time for you to eat your breakfast and get ready for daycare. Tyler, distracted by his bowl of Cheerios, sliced banana, and sippy cup of milk, began happily eating. That's another thing about 2-year-olds, Robert thought. Their emotions can turn on a dime. When Robert had last taken Tyler to the pediatrician, he had unloaded on her about Tyler's wild mood swings. The pediatrician just laughed and said, "Welcome to parenthood." He just promised him, as he always did, the task of parenting would be easier as Tyler got older. But when would it get easier? When Tyler was 3? When he was old enough to start school? When he was in college? Robert knew that for him, the hardest thing about parenting was that something had to do alone. He had never planned to be a single parent, but he had no choice now that Anna was gone. Robert never met Anna in junior year of college. He had never met Anna in junior year of college. He had never believed that finding the one theory of romance. Surely there was just one person in the whole world that was right for you, and yet his and Anna's connection was immediate. They loved the same books and movies, and they started having more serious conversations. They discovered that they shared deeper values too, that they dated through the rest of college and got engaged after graduation, agreeing on a 1-year engagement to give them some time to get used to being real grown-ups at real jobs before they got married. Robert settled into steady but not terribly exciting job at a local lifestyle magazine, and Anna got a position as a first-grade teacher. They got married barefoot on the beach, and both set of their parents chipped in to help them with the down payment on the house. Their little bungalow had seen better days, but it still had plenty of charm, especially for young, energetic first-time homeowners who were willing to put some elbow grease into renovating it. The only downside as far as Robert was concerned was the house location, right next to the town's most notorious geographical feature, the cliffs. Although these rocky outcroppings possessed the rugged beauty, they also had a grisly history. The highest of them was nicknamed Jumper's Cliff by the locals because it was a common sight for suicides over the generations. It seemed that everyone knew that someone who had chosen to end it all on the cliffs. The jilted high school homecoming queen from Robert's mother's generations, the businessman who lost all his money due to bad investments, the grandmother with terminal cancer diagnosis. There were stories about the cliffs that were fact, and stories that were fiction. But true or not, these tales had made people look at the geological features with the mixture of fear and awe. Especially Jumper's Cliff teenagers gathered there and creeped out each other out with scary stories. Younger kids whispered that the ghosts of departed still haunted the place where they had chosen to make the final leap. Robert had grown up hearing those stories, and the cliffs creeped him out. Anna insisted that until the suicides themselves were sad, the cliffs were just rocks. They didn't actually mean anything. Besides, the house's proximity to the cliffs is why it has been such a deal. Attributing many dark meaning to the cliffs was nothing short of superstition. Robert knew that she was right, but once they moved into the house, she was so happy that his new wife and his new life that he hardly thought about the cliffs at all. When he looked back on it, the first year of their marriage was a blissful blur of love and laughter. In his mind, he could play out the scenes of the first year like a montage in a romantic movie. The two of them riding bikes together, cooking dinner together, cuddling in front of the TV, big bowl of popcorn between them. Sure, one of them would sometimes have a bad day at work and come down with a cold, but these problems were minuscule compared to the happiness that they had in each other's company. Although the first year of their marriage had been great, the happiest time in Robert's life had to come when Anna was pregnant with Tyler. They had been married 2 years, and they found out she was pregnant, and they were both over the moon with delight. There was something about the idea of creating a new human being just because of their love. It seemed almost magical. As happy as they'd been a couple, they knew they would be a happier family. Throughout Anna's pregnancy, she had glowed like some kind of ancient mother goddess from a mythology. Robert had glowed too. They were so full of love that she didn't know what to do with all of it. He massaged Anna's feet when they were sore after she got home from teaching all day. She went out to fetch her mint chocolate chip cookie ice cream when she had said it was the only thing in life that would constantly satisfy her cravings. They were in perfect harmony during their pregnancy. Two dedicated gardeners growing their baby together. But then things went wrong. 2 months before the baby was due, Anna started complaining of swelling in her hands and feet. When she called the nurse to obstetrician's office, she said that was not to worry about it, and the swelling was common among pregnant women, especially the hottest months of the summer. Reassured, Anna had bought bigger shoes and soaked her feet in Epsom salts, and otherwise ignored her symptoms. But that's when she went on a regular checkup. Her blood pressure was alarmingly high, and the doctor insisted that she be admitted to a hospital immediately. After that, things were nightmarish, blur in Robert's mind. All the IV drugs the doctor gave her, and the failed attempt to bring her blood pressure down, the decision to deliver the baby early by cesarean section or C-section in hopes of saving her life. The massive stroke was suffered on the operating table left Robert a single father. For a long time, he was numb. None of it even felt real. Since Tyler was born early, he was tiny and unable to breathe on his own without exhausting himself. He had to stay in the hospital for a few weeks until he gained the weight and his lungs developed more. In a shocked daze, Robert would visit a new baby in the neonatal intensive care unit. He would scrub his hands and put on his face mask before entering the brightly lit white room lined with plastic incubators in which possibly tiny babies lay. Robert would stand in his own son's incubator and look at Tyler's small, skinny body, wearing a diaper the size of a fast food napkin. The parents of other babies in the NICU always looked tired and worried about like Robert did, and they arrived in couples, so at least they had each other. In horror, Robert would look at his son and think, "Kid, I'm all you have in this world." But it was not a good way to start out in life, motherless and stuck to the father who would eat, sleep, or go a full hour without crying. In an exhausted, grief-stricken state, there were only two facts Robert knew for sure. 1, he was all that Tyler had, and 2, he was not enough. Robert had muddled through the last 2 years, managing to hold down a job and somehow provide for Tyler with food, clothing, and shelter. Robert had withdrawn from his friends because he didn't want their pity and wanted a single father of a toddler. Grabbing a bite to eat after work with his buddies was not an option. At 5 o'clock sharp, he had to leave the office to pick up Tyler from daycare. After that, it was time to go home and fix his supper. Then came playtime and bath time, and if Robert was lucky and Tyler would actually fall asleep, bedtime. The toddler owner manual was clear. Without a regular schedule, life with a toddler descended into chaos. Robert was quite enough chaos in his life, so he tried not to deviate from the daily schedule. Once Tyler was finally asleep, Robert mindlessly surfed through channels on TV and played Warrior's Way on his laptop. Sometimes Bartholomew the orange cat sat with him, and most often he did not. Bartholomew had been Anna's pet before she and Robert got married, and Anna used to refer to him jokingly as "my first husband" because of the way he guarded her jealously, and had never warmed up to Robert. Now, with Anna gone, Bartholomew accepted food and an occasional pat from Robert, but he never gave Robert the impression that he was doing anything more than tolerating him because he was a dispenser of cat food. Was Robert lonely? Yes, painfully so. But he was also too busy and exhausted to do anything about it. After Tyler's bedtime, he was allowed himself 2 or 3 hours of mindless screen time and one kind of another until he fell into bed with himself, knowing that he was going to wake up the day nearly identical to the one before. With this type of duration of Tyler's mood swings, he had been the only wild card. Right now, though, as Tyler was contentedly picking up Cheerios and stuffing them down his mouth, he was adorable. His hazel eyes, the same shade as Anna's, and framed by long, soothing eyelashes. His curly black hair surrounding the head like a halo, and his mouth was a cherubic rosebud, also like his mom's. In fact, Tyler resembled his mother in so much that it made Robert's heart hurt. Looking at his son, Robert felt overwhelmed by the love and not the fear. What if he lost Tyler like he'd lost Anna? Over and over, what ifs played on the screen in his mind like a trailer in a movie like no one ever wanted to see. Even though Robert couldn't look at Tyler without thinking of Anna, he never talked to Tyler about her. Tyler was too young to understand death, and Robert wasn't doing much of a great job of understanding it with himself. In his heart, he knew that it would probably be a good idea to start showing Tyler pictures of the mom and telling him the little stories of the kind of person she was and things that he used to say and do. How excited she had been with becoming his mommy, but he would never bring himself to take out the pictures of Anna hidden in the attic. If he tried to talk about her. The words struck in her throat and he said nothing. Even saying her name hurt too much, especially because of the time he looked at Tyler, he was staring it down in his eyes, like he did every weekday morning. Robert choked back the sadness along with some black coffee and drove Tyler to daycare, letting him play with his phone all the way. After he dropped off Tyler, he went to work, only nodding at colleagues who greeted him as good morning. He didn't want to seem rude, but he didn't want to get into a conversation either. His own reactions were too unpredictable. Once he started talking, what would he say? What would all the emotional in front of someone he didn't even know very well? Would he break down entirely? What if he did break down? What if he wasn't able to put the pieces back together? Robert knew that no matter how bad he felt, he had to hold on to this job. It was the only way to make any kind of life for Tyler. And so today, like every other day, he sat in his cubicle and worked without stopping, trying to be empty in his mind and everything but the task in front of him. He stopped at the noon and took out his sandwich, eating it so mindlessly that once he finished it, he couldn't even care as he identified with what kind of sandwich it would have been. He walked to the bathroom and then to the water cooler. He was refilling the water bottle when a voice behind him said, "Hey." He jumped as though it startled the only person in the building. He turned around to see Jess, a nice pre-speckled copy editor and self-confessed grammar nerd who had been hired at the same time he was. She and he used to chat a bit before Anna died, before he was broken. "Hey, Jess," he said, moving away to let her have his turn to water cooler, and, he hoped, to go back to his desk without being disturbed further. He turned to walk away. "Hold up a sec," Jess said. "Me?" Robert said, even though it was clearly him she was talking to. Reluctantly, he turned around. "I was just noticing you're eating your sad little sandwich at your desk." Jess filled up one of those weird paper cups from the water in the cooler, who had decided to use adequate drinking vessels. She grinned at him. "Well, maybe it was a delicious sandwich, but it looked sad to me. And I was thinking, I know you can't go out after work because you've got a kiddo to fetch, and a lot of us go out half-price sushi on Wednesdays at lunch. Maybe you can go with us sometime." Sushi had been Robert and Anna's favorite food. They had learned to love it in college, and they also learned to use chopsticks together, picking up sushi rolls, dunking them in soy sauce, and popping them in each other's mouth. While a lot of couples went out for steaks or seafood or Italian or special occasions, for them, it was always sushi. How could going out for half-price sushi with a bunch of random people from work live up to those romantic sushi dinners with Anna? The answer was simple. It couldn't. It was only bring back memories and make him sadder. Still, Jess was nice of asking him, for taking pity on him. "Yeah, well, maybe I'll join you sometime," Robert said, not trying to sound convincing. "Thanks for inviting me." "Okay," Jess said, sounding surprisingly disappointed. "Robert?" "Yeah?" He didn't know where he was going, and he already knew he didn't like it. Wasn't this a workplace? Shouldn't they be working? She looked down for a minute and was collecting her thoughts. "You know," she began, "before things changed so much for you, you and I used to be friends. We used to talk. You never want to talk again. I'm here." Robert knew he was in danger of emotions bubbling on the surface, which couldn't happen. He wouldn't let the basket case at work. He had to get out of the conversation, get back to this. "That's very kind." Jess rolled her eyes. "I'm being kind, you goof." "I'm not being kind, you goof. I like you. I've always enjoyed your company. I'm a single parent too. Not for the same reason you are, maybe, but I bet we could still go through a lot of the same stuff. Talking about something that might be good for our sanity, what's left of it." Robert felt himself smile a little. Against his will, he was remembering why he always liked Jess. "I'm down to crumbs myself," he said. It was a joke. We saw a lot of jokes. It contained the truth. "I hear you, and who knows? Maybe our kids could hang out. We could take turns watching each other's Rugrats, and we would be able to have an evening out every once in a while. Don't make any promises. You haven't met my kid yet," Robert said, who had made 2 jokes in a row. "He's 2, right?" "Yes." "Well, maybe I should give it a year or 2 before I offer my babysitting services," he smiled at him. A warm, gentle, genuine smile. "Listen, I'm giving you a free pass this week, but next Wednesday, you're going out for half-price sushi with us. No more sad little sandwiches for you." Robert gave her a little wave. "I'll consider your invitation, thank you." He turned to go back to his cubicle. "It's not an invitation," Jess called behind him. "It's mandatory. Mandatory sushi. Which would be a great name for a band, by the way." Robert sat back down in his cubicle. He was pretty sure that the conversation with Jess was the longest conversation he had with a non-familiar family member in months. Like someone who had been exercising in years and suddenly finds himself back on the treadmill, he was exhausted. No more chit-chat today. He stayed at his desk where he worked nonstop until 5. When it was time for leave, he felt no sense of relief. He was simply moving from one series of tasks in one location to another series of tasks in another. Off went the graphic designer hat, and on went the dad hat. Robert pulled into the parking lot of a tiny tot academy and went into the cheerful red roof building to fetch his son. He entered the room with a big red number 2 on the door. The walls were peppered in construction paper cutouts and unintentionally abstract crayon scribbles drawings. Robert found Tyler's baby young teacher, Miss Lauren, surrounded by toddlers playing with brightly colored toys and colored on the floor. While being outnumbered by volatile little people seemed terrifying to Robert, Miss Lauren looked perfectly at home and greeted Robert with a smile. She stood up and get close to Robert's eye level. He was a happy boy for most of the today, he said. Though there was one little thing I should tell you about. Robert braced himself for bad news. He hoped Tyler hadn't hit some other kid or bitten somebody. It seemed like every day care had one kid who was the biter. Nobody wanted to be the biter's parent. Miss Lorraine smiled again. Don't worry, he didn't attack anybody or anything. Robert let himself breathe a little. Miss Lorraine pushed back on her curly brown hair behind her ears. It's just that today I asked the kids to draw pictures of their families and talk about them being two. Most of them just drew blobs or scribbles, but then we sat in a circle and everybody talked about their families and who were their pictures. Tyler's friend Noah noticed Tyler didn't have a mom in his picture and asked him about it. Tyler got a little upset, I think mostly because someone pointed out his family was different. Robert hated to think of Tyler being singled out because of his loss. Did that kind of behavior have to start so early? Aren't these kids being alone? Do you even notice that kind of thing? He asked. He looked around the toddlers in the room, playing with blocks and trucks or dolls. They were babies, really. Miss Lorraine smiled again. Oh, you'd be surprised what they notice. They don't miss much, believe me. I told Noah the rest of the class that not all kids have a mommy and a daddy, and that they're all different kinds of families. And I talked about what some of these families might look like. I said the only thing you need to have to make a family is people and the love. So I guess you could say it turned out into a teachable moment. Robert stiffened. He hated the thought of his and Tyler's broken little family being used as a teachable moment. And for what? So the other kids could feel sorry for Tyler instead of making fun of him? He didn't want his son to be an object of ridicule, but he didn't want to be an object of pity either. And there was no point of saying anything negative to Miss Lorraine. He was so young and bright-eyed and idealistic that criticizing her would be like kicking a friendly puppy. He finally heard himself say, "Thank you for letting me know. It sounds stiffer and more formal than necessary, but at least it was polite." "You're welcome," Miss Lorraine said. "I just thought I would say something in case, you want to talk about it with Tyler at home." "Right," Robert said. "But you didn't want to talk about it. Not at home, not with a son, and definitely not here, with a near stranger. You ready to go, buddy?" He called to Tyler from across the brightly decorated room. Tyler looked up from the plastic dump truck and he was rolling back and forth and said, "Daddy." He grinned, jumped up, and ran to Robert, his arms outstretched. "See," Miss Lorraine said, "a happy boy." Robert had a hard time taking comfort in his statement. If Tyler was a happy boy, it was only because he didn't yet understand what he was missing. Robert didn't really want to stop for groceries on the way home, but he didn't see any way around it. Robert didn't care much about eating, but he knew it was nothing else. He had to make sure his kids' basic needs were met. Once he got Tyler safely strapped into his car seat, he said, "We need to stop at the store on the way home, buddy. We're out of milk and juice." Tyler's ran on milk and juice, by the way his cars ran on gasoline. They had to have the habit, and they burned their way through at an alarming expensive rate. "Milk, dues," Tyler said. "That's right. We'll buy some at the store. You can pick what kind of juice you want." "Bapple," Tyler sang, and for some reason when he said the word apple, it came out with a B at the beginning. "You want some apple juice?" Robert said. It was the way toddler owner's manual said to handle kids' mispronunciations. They did not attention to him, but to make sure you repeated the word correctly. "Yeah, Bapple juice," Tyler cheered. "You got it, buddy." Robert turned into an Walmart parking lot and prepared himself for the ordeal of shopping. Tyler owned one t-shirt with the Freddy Fazbear on it, but Robert had never thought of his son as Freddy fanatic. He was too little for one thing, and as he pushed Tyler in the shopping cart past the toy aisles, though, Tyler pointed an index finger and yelled, "Freddy!" at the top of his tiny lugs. "And what was that, buddy?" Robert asked, looking around to see what Tyler was seeing. For a second, he thought Freddy was a kid Tyler recognized from daycare. "Freddy, Freddy!" Tyler yelled, his eyes wide with excitement. Robert followed the line of his son's pointing fingers, display identical plush brown bears with wide smiles, thick black eyebrows, and black top hats. The packaging proclaimed that Tyler was looking at. The toy called Tag Along Freddy. But how did Tyler know that? With a surge of guilt, Robert realized now Tyler most likely knew. When Robert was especially exhausted and Stu had to cope, this happened more than he would like to admit. He had plopped Tyler down in front of the TV, only let him watch age-appropriate programming and the cartoons. While there were no doubt eye candy with bright colors and rapidly shifting images, did he at least make a pretense of having some educational value? But then there were the commercials, the terrible, terrible commercials designed to buy boardrooms of cynical suits in Madison Avenue to make children desire Technicolor sugar blobs masquerading as cereal, high fructose corn syrup suspensions masquerading as juice drinks, and the latest toys past the most popular pop culture trends. "You want to look at one of the Freddys?" Robert asked. Tyler nodded and held out his hand. Robert placed the toy in Tyler's hands, and Tyler's mouth spread into a beautiful smile and conjured the ghost of his mother. Even though the bear was encased in cardboard packaging, he drew it to him in his head. "Wuv," he said. Well, shoot, Robert thought. It was hard to argue with Wuv. "Now you have to be careful with that bear," Robert said. "We've decided we're going to buy it." When we looked at the price sticker, he was surprised how expensive it was. "Yikes," he muttered. "Buy?" Tyler asked, still clutching the toy in his hands. "Mine?" Well, let me read the packaging and see if it's even safe for kids your age, Robert said. He pulled another bear off the shelf and turned it over. The pictures on the back of the box showed laughing toddlers playing with the tag-along Freddy and, interestingly, a woman dressed like she worked in an office showing out her wristwatch and smiling like all was well in the world. Robert read the text on the back. Tag-along Freddy, this is a kid's and parents' best pal. Freddy goes where your little one goes and sends you the live updates, and you tag along time wristwatch included. So you'll know that your little one is happy and safe. You may have to be out of sight sometimes, but Tag-along Freddy is the bear who is always there. Robert thought of all the times he had to tend to something in the kitchen and take an important phone call and leave Tyler unattended. This was amazing. How could it go wrong in just a few seconds? He recalled once when he left the living room long enough to stir a pot on the stove and turned to find Tyler scaling a bookcase like King Kong climbing Empire State Building. He would see how this Tag-along Freddy would come in handy, especially with a single parent like him. When you took into account that the toy was also a safety device, the price didn't seem so outrageous. Tyler, he said, would you like to take Freddy home with you? Tyler's whole face lit up with a beautiful smile. Yeah, Daddy, thank you. That Miss Lorian at daycare had told Robert that they've been working on pleases and thank yous, and this is the first time he ever heard Tyler say thank you without being prompted by, what do we say? You're welcome, buddy, and I'm loving those good manners. Manners gets you everything in the world. So does being kind, apparently, but there's also the saying that good guys finish last. But how come no good girls finish last, or do they finish first? It's hard to say, but what's not hard to say is the fact that today we read pages 01, or 1 if you're normal, unlike me, to 20, and next time we're going to be reading pages, now hold your horses, this might be surprising for you to know, 21 to 40. Yeah, I mean, it's real surprising, isn't it? So, yep, that has been the Cliffs today. I've read this book as well. I want to say that real quick. I've read this whole book, but that was for a more... I read it to someone more than for an audiobook. So maybe that's the same situation with the other story, other book. It could be, really. It's hard to say, though. But, yeah. So, now, you know what time it is. It's time for the... Reading Corner of the Day, doing it SpongeBob's way, bop. Today we are learning about the American Water Spaniel. Look at him, he's on a little couch. Look how small he is. Think about the size of a couch cushion. His little paw is the size of the crevice of the couch cushion. That's a leather couch cushion, probably designed in the 90s. So you know those were not really built to last. So you know that there's actually not a lot of space in between those cushions. A lot of dirt and a lot of hair from that dog right there builds up in it. And his little paw just fits there. Just fits there. So, yeah. You know how small the doggy is and look how big the dog is. It's actually not that big of a dog, really. How tall is he? The average on height of... Oh, wow. They are small dogs. Oh, my goodness. You'll learn about that by the end. But before I make fun of the small stature of this dog, we need to know the history. As you should know, before you make fun of anything or try to give an opinion on it, you have to know the history. So, the history of the American Water Spaniel. Spaniel, Spada-Baboo. Spaniel is a really cool name. So, the history of the American Water Spaniel, opposed to any other Water Spaniel, is that it's exactly when and where or from the American Water Spaniel was developed was never recorded. Its appearance strongly suggests a smaller version of the Irish Water Spaniel, and is likely is derived from the breed or its earlier versions, the Northern, Southern, and Tweed Water Spaniels. The curly-coated retriever and its forebear, the English Water Spaniel, may have also played a role. Some theories of the credit American Indians who lived in Great Lakes regions and creators of the breed. Whatever its origin, the Water Spaniel first became established and recognizable breed by the Midwestern parts of the United States, where it was unsurpassed as a hunting companion. This small dog has waterproof coat and keen nose could hunt through rough thickets. Spring came and retrieved all the manner of game and from land and water, often marking several fallen birds before retrieving them unfailingly, until it was recognized by the AKC, or the American Kennel Company, in 1940. No one ever considered breeding these dogs for anything but hunting ability. Even after recognition, the breed's forte remained in the field.
and its rarity in the show ring or even at home. Today, the American Water Spaniel is among the least known of AKC, American Kennel Company, recognized breeds, despite being one of the 2 sporting breeds developed in America. In fact, the American Water Spaniel is the state dog of Wisconsin.
Wow. So the state of Wisconsin sport dog, aka the American Water Spaniel, is not a very known breed. I thought this was another breed of dog, but I guess I was incorrect. As it says, it was a mix of curly-coated retrievers, which is the exact breed I was thinking of. So, yeah, that's really cool to know. Now you want to own one of these pipe-sized pups. So, what's the temperament of these silly little dogs? Well, the temperament of the American Water Spaniel, did I spell that right? Spaniel? Oh my goodness, I didn't spell that right. Well, that's a little treat for y'all. I didn't spell Spaniel right. It's spelled I-E-L, not I-A-L. But just for you guys, I need that explained. I spelled that wrong, but for this episode, you guys get that little treat called a spelling error. If you go down to the comments and give me proof that you guys have actually caught that before, I'll give you an emoji. I don't know what emoji yet, but I'll give you one of those. So, the temperament of the American Water Spaniel, as I spelled it, or Spaniel, as it's properly spelled, is that its name implies the American Water Spaniel is a natural lover of water. Not only is it a skilled retriever and versatile hunter, but it also is a tractable, fun-loving family dog. As long as it gets regular physical and mental exercise, it is sensitive and willing to please. Some can be timid, generally good with other dogs in the household. Some are aggressive towards strange dogs. Barking can be a definite problem. Some also whine or drool. Oh, these doggies drool. They're silly. They're very silly dogs. But they drool, they whine, they make noises, and they're funny and fuzzy. Now, what are the temperament? What do I have to do for this dog, Stonesy? Tell me this. Tell me this now. No, I'm sorry, the upkeep. What is the upkeep for this dog? Not the temperament. We just read the temperament, you fool. So, the upkeep of the American Water Spaniel is that, like all hunting dogs, the American Water Spaniel needs daily exercise. Although these requirements can be met with a long walk, it does best dividing its time between indoors and outdoors. Its coat is oily and needs weekly brushing. Hair may be clipped from the feet to top knot. Ears should be checked regularly. Ooh, so speaking of being checked regularly, if you are a child, please cover your ears, for this is the worst part of owning a dog. And if you are an adult or a teenager, please keep your ears wide open, for we shall now be talking about the health of the American Water Spaniel. Now, for the major concerns that you need to look out for this dog is the mitral valve disease. I don't know what that is exactly, but if it's mitral valve disease and it's a valve, the only places that could be located with a valve on an animal, I believe, is the throat or the appendix. So, keep an eye on their breathing habits, see if that's a problem. Their minor concerns are PDA, pulmonic stenosis, and CHD. I believe that just means, like I said before, throat, hip, thigh, whatever. And they're occasionally seen with patellar luxation and PRA. Again, same places. And suggested test is cardiac, hip, and eye. So yeah, keep an eye on all those. I'd also just say get the dog checked out fully. And their lifespan is 10 to 12 years. Now, if you are an adult or a teenager and you have a kid listening to this, please grab them by the hands and, rip them off and, maybe even shake their head a little bit because they need to keep themselves entertained. So, now we have to go to the second and final thing before the countdown. The form and function. For the form and function of the American Water Spaniel packs a lot of ability into the comparatively small dog. Its muzzle is long and strong enough to carry a large goose, and its strong quarters to propel it through water and over land. It's slightly longer than tall, solidly built and muscular. The coat can range from uniform waves, marcel, to close curls, with a dense undercoat. This combination provides protection against weather, water, and briars. The ears are well covered with hair, which should not grow their ear canal. The gait is balanced in reach and drive. Now, for the final part, we have the tier list. So basically, let me explain this to you as quickly as I can, as I've done 100 times. 5 is the best or could be the worst. 4 could be better or 8 could be worse. 3 is average, like the other dogs.
2 is low. Oh no. Oh god. 1 is the worst, the bad it can be, depending on the tier list. What can it be? Okay, so now. The energy level of the American Water Spaniel is a 4, so it's above average. It's pretty good. It can run around. The exercise requirements is a 3. Just take it on a nice long walk across the beach. It'll do fine. The playfulness of the dog is 4, above average for any other dog. So he goes, you know, it's good. The affection level and friendliness towards other pets is a 3, so this dog can be trusted if trained properly, to, you know, be around other pets like cats and stuff. Friendliness towards dogs, however, is a 2. I guess they're quite defensive depending their coats and the size of themselves. Friendliness towards strangers is also at a 2, so, you know, again, with size and such, they could be, bad. Their ease of training is at a 3, so average. As long as you don't do anything to scare this dog, you should be fine. Their watchdog ability is at a 4, with their protection ability being at a 3. So they'll be able to see and protect you pretty well, considering these guys have the strength of carry a goose. Their grooming requirements, cold tolerance, and heat tolerance are at a 3, which is pretty high for groom tolerance, or for like how much you need to groom them. So like once or twice a week. Their weight is, for a male, for a healthy, good weight for this dog, is 30 to 45 pounds. For a female, it's 25 to 40 pounds. That's the healthy weight of these guys. And finally, for the height, the thing you've been waiting for since the beginning of this reading corner of the day is 15 to 18 inches. Now, I want you to look around your room right now and think, what is 15 to 18 inches in your house? I mean, really, it'd be hard to find. I think all Spaniels are decently short, or maybe it's just this one. I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at the Spaniel we'll be reading about in the next episode, and it is the one you'll learn about in the next episode. Didn't you just hear me say that the first time, you silly biscuit? So, yeah. I hope you guys have a fantastic, wonderful day. People like, be efficient, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.